The executive branch is responsible for the execution and enforcement of the laws, though not for creating them. The executive branch consists of the Department of Defense, Environment Protection Agency, Social Security Administration, Securities Exchange Commission, the Armed Forces, and many more. The judicial branch has the biggest check on the executive, and the executive branch has the biggest check on the legislative branch. The legislative branch is one of the three branches of government. The legislative branch works to write the laws. The process of writing laws includes laws being written, discussed, and voted in Congress. The legislative branch is made up of two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. There are 100 senators in the Senate. 2 are from each state, and they serve for 6 years a term. The Senate is responsible for nominates made by the President to the Cabinet and the Supreme Court. The Senate is also responsible in ratifying the treaty within 2/3 vote. The House of Representatives consists of 435 members. The number of representatives for each state is determined by the state's population. They are also elected by their states and serve 2-year terms. The House of Representatives and the Senate both work together to create and propose laws. In order for a law to be passed to the President for signature, both House and Senate must pass the bill with a majority vote, and if the President vetoes the bill, they can override it by a 2/3 majority vote. The judicial branch interprets the meaning of the laws, applies laws to individual cases, and decides if the laws violate the Constitution. It's made up of the Supreme Court, which is the highest court, and other federal courts. The judicial branch is made up of justices, which are assigned by the President and approved by the Senate. Justices decide whether or not they should hear the cases, and the 3rd article of the Constitution says everyone will have a fair trial. The first Supreme Court case was Chisholm versus Georgia in 1793. Federal jurisdiction over suites versus the states, and state sovereign. The states are now sovereign immunity, and it also helped ratify the Second Amendment. Policy is, quote, a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by a government, or in other words, any action made or discussed in government. The outcome of a policy, albeit one that is passed, can be almost anything. Laws or bills, taxes, governmental programs, agencies, and other are all various outcomes. House Bill 983 about cannabis is a policy outcome, so is House Bill number 2 for bathrooms. Welfare and Social Security, they are too. Interest groups are organizations that seek to influence public policy, which include businesses, professional organizations, labor unions, and other groups of people. They all try to encourage or prevent changes in public policy even though they are not elected directly. They try to influence policy by lobbying or putting pressure to policymakers to gain favorable political outcomes. Such examples are the AARP, which promotes to enhance the quality of life for elders. Media agenda. The job of the media is to promote stories and set the political agenda by repeating news stories and setting dominance to them. Lastly, political parties have an influence on policy making because the leaders of the parties generate policies that reflect the overall platform of the party. Political parties also play a role in connecting the people to policies. And lastly, economics. The current U.S. debt compared to China debt of 2016 is 19.3 trillion to 8.7 trillion in U.S. dollars. The current U.S. minimum wage is $7.25, but San Francisco has a minimum wage of $10.74. And U.S. revenue is 6.7 trillion as of 2016 compared to its spending, which is 3.8 trillion. This is Gary, Karan, and Joseph.